Hey, Shawna, tell the truth. Have you ever been in jail?
Alli, come on. Okay, I've made some bad decisions, but they have not led me into jail. However, our guest today has some really interesting insights as to how sometimes some bad decisions can lead you into like the jail of poor health, physical health, mental health.
Yes, we have someone who knows a lot about justice and law and service on our show today. We are so thrilled to have Justice Verda Colvin, who is one of the 9 Georgia Supreme Court justices. And she is here to share with us about her journey and how we can keep ourselves out of health jail.
And before we dive in, let's give a shout out to Leslie Schultz. Thanks for being a listener. Now let's dive in.
Welcome to the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast, where we dive deep into pressing health and fitness issues facing aging women. I'm Alli Kerr.
And I'm Shawna Kaminski. And together we'll bring candid conversations, expert advice, and personal stories that will inspire and empower you on your own wellness journey.
Today, we are going to talk about something, and I'm going to be honest, as a white woman in America, this is not something that I think about a lot, and that is the word justice. Just not something I think about a lot. But we got somebody here today that's going to help us think about it and help us understand and maybe open our eyes to some things we just haven't seen. So I want to welcome Justice Verda Colvin to the show today. Welcome, Justice Colvin.
Well, thank you, Alli. Thank you for having me, and thank you, Shawna, for having me. It's great to be here.
We're super excited, and we're going to dive in and get the history of Justice Colvin and how Justice Colvin became Justice Colvin. Give us some background, and I don't care how far back you go. I think you grew up in Macon, but let's hear about you.
So, no, I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, one of the last people born and raised in Atlanta. My mom put me in private school when I was very young, and so it was a private religious school, so I drank the Kool-Aid. I wanted to be a missionary, but my mom told me I couldn't because they don't make any money. So I had to think of another way that I could serve because I wanted to make a difference in the world. And so I thought about law school and kind of kept that same stance throughout my life. So I went to law school, graduated from law school, and did what many people do. Law schools will push you to firms when you excel in moot court, mock trial, or law review. And I was big in moot court and mock trial. And so I got pushed to a firm, went to a firm for a few years in Charlotte, North Carolina, came back because I really drank the Kool-Aid. So I wanted to really do something to really serve and make a difference. And I knew firm life was about, assets and making money. So came back to Georgia, worked for 2 years with my former mock trial coach at UGA because he became solicitor, and solicitors do misdemeanors. So never thought I could work for the man. I'm like, I cannot do that. But I thought I could do misdemeanors, $1,000 fine, 12 months in jail. Okay, I can do that until I figure out what I want to do next. So I did that for 2 years, absolutely fell in love with it. I found that sometimes we can put ourselves in boxes. And by that, I mean, I thought the only way I could ensure justice was to work on the other side of the aisle. But what I realized as a prosecutor, I could be more geared toward ensuring justice because I get to decide whether someone is charged, what they're charged with, the recommendation, and most importantly, treat everyone like a human being, no matter what their offense was. And so I was like, you know what? I think this is the ticket to ensure justice. So I did that for 2 years. Then afterwards, I was having my son, so I was commuting from DeKalb County to Athens, Georgia. That couldn't work with a little kid in tow. So I came back to Atlanta, worked at Clark Atlanta University as an assistant general counsel, left there after 8 months, went back to prosecution, the DA's office in Clayton County, which was phenomenal. I did everything from theft by shoplifting to a death penalty prosecution. Really enjoyed my time there. I was glad that I was there because I got to see people and not just process people as a prosecutor. And so I was kind of different. I mean, defense attorneys would ask me to talk to their clients because, my thought is I've got a job to do, but your life matters too. And so I've just always been able to kind of go on both sides of the coin as it relates to justice. So I did that for 3 years, left after they were going to hire somebody making more than me. And he wasn't better than me. So I was like, okay, I got to leave. So But my boss was really nice about it, was willing to help me. I went to the U.S. Attorney's office, and that's how I got to Macon. I came to the U.S. Attorney's office in Macon. I was supposed to get the next position in Atlanta, but I didn't want to wait. So I came to Macon and fell in love with my wonderful city of Macon. After 6 months, I was like, you know what? This is great. I can get anywhere I want to get in 20 minutes or less. I don't have to call anybody to pick up my son because 20 or 75 is backed up. I was like, this is my life, and I need to accept it. So I just grew up to love Macon. Was there for 14 years, absolutely adored it. And then in one day, I thought I was going to retire and then do federal background checks. That way I could travel. In one day walked the U.S. Attorney, Michael Moore, and he said, I want to nominate you for the bench. And I'm like, what? What? I was doing pretty well. When you're a judge, you got to hope people will elect you, particularly as a trial judge every 4 years. People are fickle. And so I was like, I don't know about that. So he was my friend as well as my boss. I said, let me pray about this. So I'll never forget, I went to the window of my office. And you know how we'll talk to our higher being, like why we can't do things. Like, okay, I can't do this, because I've got my son about to go to school in New York. My daughter's in Catholic school. I'm a one-woman show because I was divorced at the time. I can't do this. And then I thought about something I would tell my Sunday school kids because I taught Sunday school at that time. And I used to tell them faith and fear can't reside the same place at the same time at the same level. You always have to choose one. So every day you have to ask yourself, what will I choose, faith or fear? So then I still started making excuses. Well, they're kids. They don't really understand, this adult life thing we have to do. They don't get it. And then I thought, Verda, if you don't do this, it's because you're being a hypocrite. And the one reason why the kids like you is because you're real and you're like a regular person, even though you're an adult. And so I was like, okay, let me go upstairs and tell them I'll do this. And I'm like, God, if this is what you have for me, I'll do it. But if not, I'm fine. So I went upstairs, told him I'll let him nominate me. And he nominated me for Superior Court in Macon. And Governor Deal liked me enough to call me and ask me would I be his next judge in Macon Judicial Circuit. It was phenomenal for our community, even though it's a majority minority community. I was the first African-American female to ever get that role, and that was in 2014. So it was kind of a huge deal for us. I absolutely love being a Superior Court judge. It is nothing like investing in people and seeing them believe in themselves, to recognize that they can do more than what they've done, that they're more than what they've relegated themselves to do. And so I was known for being a pen pal of people who, even though they had to do some time in jail or prison, I would write them. I would give books out to inspire them, being a better you, because I believe that we can all change. I mean, sometimes people's lot in life doesn't lead them to the best result, and they just need somebody to know that they can. And so I just love doing that. I went viral talking to kids because I did that once a month. And that kind of put me on the map, I think, statewide, because people saw that video and, got offers for my own judge show. But that wasn't why I went to law school. I went to law school to make a difference, to serve people. And that was the best lesson I could give my kids. My daughter, of course, was upset because she wanted money. But I think she now, as a young adult, recognizes that when I say I'm committed to service, I mean that. And, at some point, money is numbers. Numbers never end. If it takes money to make you happy, your search for happiness will never end. So that's just never been my thing. So I did that for 6 years, did mental health court, family violence court, parent treatment court, along with the civil and criminal docket. Absolutely loved it. And started getting people to call me to ask me to put my name in for an appellate slot. And I said no, because to me, this journey has never been about position or title. It's been about what I can do to make it better. And so I said no to people asking me to do that. And about, I guess, the second year of getting calls, I got a call from Yvette Miller, who was on the Court of Appeals at the time. It's a 15-member court. She was the only African-American female serving on that court. And she's from Macon, born and raised. She was Miss Central High School at some point. And she called me and she said, Verda, you talk about being a public servant all the time because I have a lot of speaking engagements. And so people know my shtick. And she said, you talk about being a public servant. If you're a public servant, then you do what our state needs and not what you're comfortable doing. So fill out the application. And I tried to explain to her why, I'm doing things different here. I like my mental health court. It's making a difference. I'm helping people change their lives. She's like, did you hear what I said? Fill out the application. So I did it, filled out the application. It was for the Supreme Court, which I thought was ridiculous because Court of Appeals is in the middle of Superior Court and Supreme Court. And it didn't make sense to me to try to climb to the top. But I did what she told me to do. Interviewed with Governor Kemp. he appointed our first Asian American to our Supreme Court, Justice McMillan, which he should have done. This is the first time we've ever had an Asian American serving on our Supreme Court. But then he asked me to take her seat on the Court of Appeals. So, of course, I had to say yes. So I said yes to that, and I served in that capacity for 15 months. And then the only African American serving on our 9-member Supreme Court, which is like the Supreme Court of the United States, 9 members, he was leaving to go into private practice. And I thought, the first time in my life, I thought to myself, Lord, is this why you've done all of this, for me to offer myself for service? I don't care if I don't get it. In fact, I kind of didn't want it. I thought, Court of Appeals is sweet, you know. It's kind of like the trial level. I only have to deal with 2 other judges at a time. We make our decisions, we put it out. But I said, if this is what you'd have me to do, I'll do it. And my thought was, if I put my hat in the ring, at least he has to consider a minority candidate. And I thought, sitting in the city of Atlanta, the state of Georgia, we need to have someone who's African American on the court. So I put my name in for consideration, and Governor Kemp appointed me yet again to the Supreme Court. So I've been here since 2021. I had to run. I was opposed in my election in 2022. So I had to run statewide, which is daunting, particularly for someone like me who's not a politician. I just want to serve. But I ran across the state and was able to retain my seat. And I'm sitting here in this seat until 2028 when I have to run again. So that's my history.
Wow, that is quite a mouthful. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. The thing that just keeps coming up again and again is, I mean, full disclosure, I know very little about law except for what I see on television, but I know that there's like so many hard decisions and heartbreaking situations that you must face. And yet you are coming to this with such positivity. What is your secret for maintaining such positivity in the face of probably some very challenging situations?
Yeah. I think it's my faith. It's always been really strong. My maternal grandmother was a holiness minister. She actually started her own church. So it was kind of inbred with me from the start. Then my mom putting me in school. But more so than that, I love people. You know, even people who may totally disagree with me or just may hate me for being who I am. We're complex individuals, but all of us have special gifts and unique talents. And I love people, so it makes it easy to kind of be positive because I believe in redemption. I believe people can have a do-over. I mean, it's hard, but I think they can. And I think that keeps me going and keeps me positive. Because what other way is it to be? Like, if I'm not positive, then I'd have to be negative. And God, I can't stand, it's hard for me to deal with negative people, but I can't imagine living a life of negativity. It's too much to be grateful for, even despite the pain we might experience.
And Justice Colvin, share with us some experiences or stories maybe from the bench, because we really don't know a lot about justice. I have not sat in hardly any courtrooms to know what goes on in courtrooms. So, and I know there's different levels, and you've worked at so many of those different levels. And we talk about women's health here on the Girls Talk Healthy Aging and so on. And I know in our justice system that we hear a lot about, you know, how many men are have been arrested or in prison, and I want to talk about women because that's, you know, so any stories that you can share about justice and women that might just help us have a better understanding of what does go on in the courtroom.
You know, we all know this. Women carry so much on their shoulders. You know, they say we carry half the world. I might venture to say we carry 3/4 of the world. I mean, we're caregivers for children and husbands and people, and we have this level of empathy that allows us and makes us reach out to others that are not even connected to us, because that's just kind of how we're wired. And so I have met women through the criminal justice system and sometimes the civil system as well, who are carrying all of that. And because they carry that, sometimes they do have mishaps with the justice system. A lot of times it's the people they love. And as a result of loving the wrong people or allowing their love to take them places they shouldn't go, they're incarcerated because they helped a boyfriend sell drugs, or they helped a boyfriend rob somebody, or they, you know, didn't get the skill sets they needed to parent. And so they committed some acts that were beyond discipline for their children. That's how people got into my parenting court, because the acts that they committed, you know, maybe a school counselor saw it, they reported it, and the mom gets in trouble. for that. And sometimes the domestic violence, even, I've had a few who've been in my domestic violence court and they're women. And it's because they carry so much. And I think a lot of that has to do with the mental aspects, mental health. That's what I saw the most in my judicial journey. And I presided over the mental health court. And to see women struggle from pain, usually it's pain from relationships, from being hurt, either in the womb, parents, or either they're the people who they've been connected with romantically, whether that's, heterosexual or homosexual relationships. And all that pain and baggage they carry with them, not only does it pull on their mental health, it pulls on their physical health. And so sometimes I would, in court, when I did mental health court, I always had a theme for each session. And it would be something, an empowerment theme. And sometimes that would be, just taking care of themselves, honoring the value of who they are. And I think, I've learned to do that by going to Alli now. I wasn't investing in myself health-wise. And my daughter, I kept complaining about wanting to lose weight. And I was a runner for most of my life, but then I started having some back pain, so I stopped running. I wasn't doing anything. And my daughter said, Mom, you need to go to that place, Pink Physique. You need to get back, to who you are. And I thought, maybe I should, but, I complained about money because I'm frugal, even though I spend too much money. And she was like, well, you spend it on everything else. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. So why not spend it on me? But I don't think we invest in ourselves enough, whether it's physical exercise or mental health exercise, like, just go on a trip. You don't have the money, well, whatever. You go to the mall and you don't have the money, so why not spend money for your mental health? And so I've seen a lot of those stories. Like one lady, and I don't know if this may have just been mental health, but like she came to my court, and from what I've been told, at one point she had walked down the street at some place she lived with a dead cat on her head, nude. Our mental health can really take us for a loop. And my folks in mental health, they still are connected to me. I helped one who graduated. I helped one this week. Another one, she's my constant companion. So I keep telling her I got to come see her at work one day because now she's fully employed. And I could see how all of that affected them. So when we dealt with the mental health, guess what happened? The physical health got better. They got off some of the medication. They started walking. They started doing things to invest in themselves. So yes, I've seen it show up in court. Of course, I can't deal with it as directly when I'm not in mental health court, when they just come before me on the bench. But I see the pain they have, and a lot of it is because they haven't really invested in themselves. And isn't that what health is all about? Really investing in you, whether it's mental health or physical health. But it's just hard for us to do that because as women, the world teaches us to be nurturers. Not to be self-nurturers, but nurturers to others.
We're going to interrupt this interview for just a second because we've got something we want to make sure that you know. If you're struggling with your health, with your fitness, if you don't know where to start or you know what to do and you're not doing it, we're here for you. And all you need to do to get our help is to reach out to Shawna and I at our email, sapodcast23@gmail.com, and we're happy to help and we will be in touch. Now back to the show.
And I just had a friend the other day ask me, do you sometimes wear on people reaching out to you? Because I do have a lot of people reaching out to me. I don't, in a way, because for me, I think that's why I was born. That's why I live, to help people. But it is kind of wearing. And if you don't do something for yourself, it can bring you down. And so I guess, Alli, that's the way I would kind of summarize how I've seen it in the judicial system.
And I know that you talk a lot about being a servant, and I want to talk about being a mentor. And because of what you're saying, the things that you're saying, these mental health things, these are all around things. People are all around us struggling. Women, we're just following what we know. Maybe we're doing what we've seen and we don't know any other way. And can you speak to the importance of mentorship and maybe how us, as those of us listening, how do we all have something that we can offer?
Absolutely. To me, okay, so I mentor everybody. So if people say, can you be my mentor? I'm like, yes. So I probably got like at least 15 or 20 people that are on my list. And anybody who reaches out to me, like on LinkedIn or whatever, I am always there. Because I think that's the purpose of us being here, to help each other. If we help each other, we can all get through this crazy thing called life and this journey and be a little bit more grateful and happy and thankful. And I think all of us owe that to ourselves. I personally feel like I get more out of mentoring than maybe the person who I'm mentoring, because as I'm telling them words of wisdom or inspiring them, it kind of gives me inspiration, because the journey gets hard for all of us. And so my way of inspiring myself is to inspire and encourage others. I think all of us should. I think we do a disservice to our own selves when we don't reach beyond our family and our friends. Anybody can do that. The worst people in the world do that. So if you're going to be different than the most selfish person in the world, you owe it to yourself and to others to reach out and make yourself available. I say this all the time. I'm a prisoner to yes. If you ask me to do something, if my calendar says I can, it's done. Because that's why I'm here. And I think that's why all of us are here. And maybe I will admit, I may go overboard. I may do too much. Alli gets on me. I may do too much, but you know what? I'd rather do too much than not enough. And I feel like when it's time for me to be still, um, God creates my schedule where I have to be still. Doesn't happen often, but I try to be still. And one thing I try to do is whatever I'm invested in, that's what I'm going to do. So I show up to invest in my physical health with Pink Physique. I show up to invest in the people who I say, okay, I'm mentoring you. I show up when I'm supposed to show up for the things I'm supposed to show up for. But I think everybody should mentor. And if I could say anything to you all, children are really suffering in our world today. I mean, the number one killer of children and teens is gun violence. The number one killer of our children. And a lot of that is because they don't have people to talk to. Nobody meets them where they are. And the one thing I promised myself when I was growing up as a kid, I was going to always remember what it felt like to be a kid. Because to me, people didn't respect what I said or what I felt, and they didn't honor me. And the one thing I thought is, if I'm a kid and this is the biggest problem I have, it's as big as your problem of paying the mortgage. There's no little problems, big problems. It's perspective. And so if we come at them with that perspective, I think we can reach them. And I know that to be true from all the times every month I talk to kids when I was on the Superior Court bench. And it's nothing for a kid, even now, to remember me and see me in the store and say, Justice Colvin, I finally got together. And I'm like, that's great. Like I'm not sneaking out the house anymore. Kudos to you. I mean, just being kind makes a difference. And so, guys, we've got to go into schools, help proctor tests, help kids who are not on reading level to read. If I can find time, we all can find time, because they're all our children, no matter where they come from or what they look like.
And maybe if we all joined into the process of mentoring, Justice Colvin wouldn't have to say yes to everything, because she's carrying that just heavy, heavy load. But many of us, I know I'm asking this, and I think you just touched on it a little bit, but I'm not Justice Colvin on LinkedIn. People aren't just going to be like, oh, can you mentor me maybe? Yeah. How do I get involved, and how do I become a mentor? How does anyone listening out there who feels like maybe they don't have anything to offer, how do we get involved?
Okay. So I think the first thing, what are you passionate about? What's an issue that really moves you? For me, it's kids. So it's real easy for me to do anything with kids. For you, it may be, I don't know, based upon your experience, young teenagers, because you went through a troubling time when you were a teen. There are different ways you can reach out to see, what teens need help. I mean, like if you're an exercise guru, like Alli and Shawna, maybe you can reach out to somebody who you can see struggling. Like they've been trying to lose weight, but they can't. You can say, hey, I'm going to sponsor you. Come to my gym. I just want to give you a taste of what it can be like for you. Let me 2 months, and you tell me you don't feel different. So we all have that gift that we can give back to someone. And you know what? We don't have to wait for somebody to ask us to invest in them. We see people every day who need something. And it could be as simple as you're in a store and you see somebody struggling and you say, you know what? You got this. I know you got it. You can do this today. That simple word can make all the difference. I've had people say to me before, you know what? Just the fact that you smiled at me made my day. I'm like, well, I got 1 million of those. Let's do this. I mean, just the simple things, because I think we lack kindness in the world. I mean, everything we need to know, we learned in kindergarten. Play fair, share, be kind, say sorry when you're wrong, be willing to self-correct, all those simple things. But we forget that because our world is so convoluted with all the stuff that doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is who we love and who we can make laugh. And those are important things. And I think that's beyond just our family. So it doesn't matter that you have a title, that you have LinkedIn or any of those things. There are people who come across your path every day that you can give a word to, that you can lend whatever that passion you have to make their lives better. And really, at the end of the day, isn't that what it's all about? I mean, I'm going to put a religious spin on it. The whole concept of religion is love. And love without action is void. So we can't say we have a belief system and we don't exhibit love. And love is caring for another person and extending yourself to that person.
And I think sometimes we get caught up in, Justice Colvin is helping, thousands, hundreds of people. And we forget that just helping the one is the start. So like you said, maybe in the grocery store, helping someone with their groceries or opening a door or smiling at them. It's those small,
exactly,
with the small things. And when we become open to having that helpful nature, then other things present themselves.
And let me say this to you all. Before I became Justice Colvin, when I just first started practicing law, didn't know anybody, was new to the city of Charlotte, because I have a heart for people in service, guess what I did? I did Meals on Wheels. I didn't know anybody there, but I knew they had this thing called Meals on Wheels. So I would deliver the lunches to elderly people. And the firm would ask me, where do you go on Wednesday? Why are you doing that? And I was like, because I think it's important to give back. And nobody knew me. I mean, I was like podunk, but it meant something to those people when I came and delivered their meal. They knew that every Wednesday they were going to see me, regardless. And so it's the little things. But and maybe I'm crazy, but I believe when we do little things like that, karma, even if you don't have a religious system, karma comes back to you. And those little things you do end up being things that come back to you in blessings that you never encounter. Like, it makes no sense that I'm on the Georgia Supreme Court. I mean, I don't look like the normal justice on a court, the highest court in the state. I'm first generation college, only lawyer in my family. The only lawyer I ever knew was Claire Huxtable on the Cosby Show. I had no bandwidth, not political at all, didn't do any of the wrangling, had no bandwidth. I tell people all the time, I'm a unicorn, because this should happen. First African-American female to be appointed by a Republican governor. I can't tell you how any of this happened. The only thing I can say is that I've always served, I've always been humble, and I've never allowed position or title to determine who I am. At the end of the day, I'm just Verda Colvin. That's all I am. That's all I know how to be. And that's enough. And that's enough for everybody out there. It doesn't matter what your title is. It doesn't matter if you work blue collar. My mom worked in food service for 48 years. That's what I come from. And that's the core of who I am. I'm just a regular person. And all of us are just regular people. All these people, these titles and positions, that's just crap that we put on folks. But we're just all people, just trying to make it. And what we give to each other, I think, is the greatest gift we can give.
And Justice Colvin, what would you say to someone who is trying to find their way, that's maybe listening to this, that doesn't know what they want to be when they grow up, even if they're grown up? Sometimes we still don't know what we want to be when we grow up. Yeah. Or maybe we aren't grown up and we don't know. But just doesn't know what they want to do. Just knowing, looking at your career path and how you came from, like you said, you first generation college student. How does someone find that unicorn in themselves?
I will just give you what happened for me. I just had this quest to serve. That's all. I think usually the thing that we're most passionate about is the simplest thing. Like, what is something that moves your heart? What is something that gives you energy and excites you? Do that. And it doesn't matter that it doesn't fit the mold that everybody else has. Do you all know how much of an anomaly I was to go to law school and say I want to serve? Like, I didn't say I want to go to a firm. I didn't say I want to be a politician. I didn't say I want to be a judge. I didn't say I wanted to make a lot of money. I just wanted to serve. I tell people, I know I'm not going to make any money and nobody ever know, but I just want to make a little difference in the world. But because I think when you find that thing that means something to you, and you invest in that, I think that's where you find your happy place. And it doesn't have to be the pie in the sky that everybody thinks you have to have some successful title or career. It's that thing that brings you joy. Because if it brings you joy, you're going to get everything you need to make it in this world. And let's be honest, money is numbers, numbers never end. And if it takes money to make you happy, your search for happiness will never end. So it's not about the money. And it certainly shouldn't be about titles, because we see how many people with titles are messing up in life. So it shouldn't be a title. So it's got to be about that thing on the inside that brings you joy. And it doesn't matter what other people think about that. I had to deal with that because folks were like, you're going to law school just to serve? You need to be making some money. How are you going to pay those loans back? How are you going to do? I'm like, God, me and God will figure it out, We'll figure it out. And we figured it out. And, because I've had a life of service, I don't have as much money as some people who decide to practice law and make a lot of money. But you know what? That's okay, because I did what brings me joy. And that's enough for me. Call me crazy. So let them call you crazy, and then you be happy. How about that?
The thing that keeps coming up for me is your sense of humility, and the fact that you don't, like you keep saying, it doesn't matter about titles. It doesn't matter what people think. And I do think that when people get over themselves, that is probably the first step of happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And as you have gone through your career, I'm curious if you can sense that humility or that attitude in others. Like, you have seen such a wide variety of people that have stood in front of you. How do you have a gift for saying, hey, this person, I just see something in them. I need to invest in this person. Like, has that helped you?
It has. And I think I do have a little bit of what they call spiritual discernment. Maybe not in my own life about people I choose, but just in general, I think I do. And I say that because sometimes on the bench, it'd be somebody who come before me and I was like, I don't know what it is about you, but I have to invest in you. I cannot let you leave this bench without investing. So I maybe have deeper conversations. I didn't give everybody a book. Something about them had to move me. And sometimes I would be in court, particularly when the prosecution would be really draconian with their recommendation. And I just didn't feel like it was right. And so I would bend my head, and people who knew me knew what I was doing. I was praying for spiritual discernment. Like, I just feel like I'm supposed to do something. So I'll give you an example. So one young man came before me. He had committed a theft charge, but it had happened like 2 years ago. At this point, he was in college, doing well in college, going through his, matriculated. I think he was a sophomore in college. And so the prosecution wanted a felony conviction, did not want to do pretrial diversion, did not want to dismiss the charge and let him, did not want to do first offender. I don't think he wanted him to do first offender either. Or maybe he did. I can't remember. But anyway, I just thought, this guy's now in college. This happened before he went to college. I want him to have the trajectory to be able to succeed and not have something on his record. So I sat there and thought about it for a minute. And he didn't allow first offender. So I thought about it for a minute. I said, this is what I'm going to do. I said, I'm going to sentence you to this. You have probation for 1 day, 24 hours. Tomorrow at this time, your probation will be ended. You will have been successfully completed first offender, and you can say you've never been convicted of a felony offense. And so everybody in the courtroom started clapping. I was like, I don't need the peanut gallery to clap for me. I said, I am administering justice here. You have shown me that you're doing something different. You're in school, you're doing well, and I want you to have the full faith and credit of being able to move from your college career into a profession. And, the prosecution didn't like it, but I had to do what I felt was right. And so those instances, I just fell into them, and I took them in, and I would also do things like, if somebody was on probation, I'm like, it's something about you that you can do better than this. So what we're going to do, I'm going to keep you. And what that meant is, if they got in trouble, I was the only judge they could see, because typically when you're on probation, whatever judge is on the bench, you go before them. So you could tell 5 different judges, because we had 5 in Macon, the same story. I was like, nope, you can do better than this. So you're going to stay with me. That means I'm the only judge you can see. So if you get in trouble, you're coming back to me. And this transcript of everything I've talked to you about, I'm going to have it out. I'm going to read it so I can put you on Front Street if you mess up. And so sometimes I got a reputation. So defendants say, oh, Judge Colvin, please don't keep me. I'm like, nope, you're staying because I believe in you. So you should feel good that I want to keep you, because I see something in you. I know you can be different. And I just love doing that. You can tell I'm passionate about that. I miss being on the trial bench, because I think that's when you can directly impact people's lives. And on the appellate court, like we're a court of We're a court of correction. We're the court of last resort. So once we say explain what the law is, then that's it. The only people who can overturn us is the U.S. Supreme Court, and they can't overturn us on our interpretation, of the Georgia Supreme Court, the Georgia Constitution. So we have a constitution for our state and the U.S. Constitution. We decide, and we not decide, but we interpret the Georgia Constitution, and the U.S. Constitution can't overturn us. As long as we give you the minimum rights that are afforded to every person under the U.S. Constitution, we can give you more rights. And so we determine what those rights are, how those rights look, and how they're implemented. That's very different than being on the trial court where I'm dealing with individuals. So the only people I see every day on this court are attorneys who are arguing appeals. They're saying that the lower court got something wrong, and so they're asking us to overturn the lower court. So I never see lay people. I just see attorneys arguing in front of us. And it's important what we do, but it is not as directly impactful as a trial judge.
So yeah, you're not getting to see the person right in front of you.
Exactly. So the person who has been convicted of murder, when their attorney comes up to say they should have a new trial, the conviction should be overturned, I don't get to see them. I just read the transcript, and we hear the attorneys make the argument.
Yeah. And with being a judge, that is inherently you're getting to judge. You're getting to judge what happens.
But we judge the facts and not the person.
Yeah, right. And I also sense that you obviously, especially when you're getting to be in front of those people and you're getting to hear their stories, like you really took that to heart and to mind. And when you're making those decisions, as far as, and I'm going to kind of go back a little bit to women's health and advocacy, because can you speak to, a lot of people, advocacy is a word that is a big word that we hear, but maybe we don't really understand. And again, like I said, me being just like how I don't really understand all the parameters of justice and what that really means, being a white female who's never really been in court. What does advocacy mean to you, to those of us listening, and how is that important when it comes to our kids, our youth, our moms, women's health? Can you help us?
Yeah. Advocacy is, let's be honest, as women, we advocate every day. Advocacy is really fighting for a cause, or, voicing a concern, or making people aware of an issue or a situation. So we do that every day. And so as moms, if you have children, you advocate for your children all the time because you have to, because if you don't, no one else will. And so we advocate for issues too, and women should advocate for each other. One thing I think we need to do a better job of, women need to clap for each other as they climb. And we need to advocate for each other and let me say this, I think advocating for each other also means advocating for each other when we see we're faltering. Like, for instance, if we know the woman next to us is not living the healthiest lifestyle, we could just say, without making a judgment, girl, you need to come work out with me. Man, I feel so much better. I feel healthy. I feel engaged. I feel, like I'm having fun. We need to do that for each other to help each other stay healthy. And I think advocating means just, prompting other people to do what needs to be done. Right? So staying healthy. We need to advocate for each other. So for instance, I told Alli, and I'm putting it on Front Street so I can text her after this and say, hey, I put you on Front Street, so you got to do it. So my court reporter, who's like 70, I think Pat's now 78, close to 80. I was like, you should come to Pink Physique, because Alli says you can work out at any time. You're never too old to start. She's like, okay, I'm going to do it. That was advocating for her, because she's like a mom to me now that my mom is gone, and my white mama, I had a white mama. She passed after my mom, and I told her not to leave. And now this is my other mom, and I'm like, I need you to be here. So, I need you to come. You need to do this. And so that's advocating. And I think we can all advocate for each other for a myriad of issues. And so we do it every day, but sometimes I think we have to be intentional in doing so, because that's how we can make a difference in people's lives, and particularly with other women, and advocate for us living our best lives. Like, why should we settle? I think we settle so much, and it affects our health. It affects our mental health, our physical health. And I will tell you all, when I stop settling, I do better, even when it sometimes means letting people and some things go. So we need to advocate and help each other as we go through these life journeys and these ups and downs.
And I think part of not settling, you are the queen of yes, but it is also sometimes saying no. Because when you always say yes.
Okay, Alli, you must have told her to say that.
I was just thinking, yes, Shawna, speak, Shawna, preach, Shawna.
Same page. But when you continually say yes, you often say no to yourself and some of your own needs. So maybe from afar, from Canada, I'm on your case to remind you that yes, we do need to say yes. We need to advocate for each other, but part of advocating for each other or is advocating for ourselves and, saying yes to me, which discerningly saying no to some things. And that's a hard decision. I mean, you are also the queen of decision making. Maybe you've already answered this when you say that in your judgments, in your discernments, you are looking for maybe spiritual guidance. Is maybe is it all based on faith? I mean, it's all also on the law, but is it just that
totally.
gut feeling?
Yeah, when it comes to individuals, like in my work here, I have to base it upon precedent and law. So I don't have a choice. So I tell people all the time, if a judge likes every decision they make, then they're not a really good judge, because you have to follow the law. But in life and dealing with other people, it is kind of discernment. Like, what do I feel? But what I notice, I do that better when I'm dealing with folks outside of my intimate space. I don't do such a good job when it comes to my discernment with my intimate space. But I think I may struggle like all women. We have some self-doubt and some internal issues that make us accept less than what we need and less than what we deserve. So a good friend of mine said something to me. You need to ask yourself, do people meet your needs, your expectations, and your desires? When they don't meet your needs, and this was of God, when they don't meet your needs, your expectations or desires, then even though they might be a nice person, they might not be your person. When he told me that, I was like, wow, I was blown away, because I never thought that way. And I think as women, but we don't think of all of that for ourselves. We'll think about that for other people we love. But do we say, I deserve this, and this is what I'm going to mandate that I get? Never in my life have I done that, ever. And I think that hurts us physically, our physical health, and our mental health. And that's why probably so many women struggle with weight or with self-esteem, because we're not demanding that for ourselves, we can't even concentrate on this.
Yeah. And then some of those decisions, poor decisions, might land them in front of you.
Exactly.
And so kind of one decision leading to the next decision. So anybody listening, that decision to go to bed earlier or to get to the gym, it's not a slippery slope that, okay, in a week I'm going to be in front of Justice Colvin. It's not like that. But it is a series of small decisions that land you in a position where you kind of, probably a lot of women have said, how did I get here?
Exactly. I've said that before.
Yeah, and we're not living our healthiest and happiest lives because of what you're saying, that we are accepting less than in our internal space. We may be, because of a lot of women, and I would say this happens a lot with people that are either caregivers or servants or do a lot for other people. It's very hard sometimes to do anything for ourselves. It can be even the little things. So that would be so kudos to you, Justice Cole, for being a servant and now taking time to invest in your own health. And
that's right.
I love that for you and what that's going to continue to do for you on and off the bench.
That's right. That's
just in life in general. And if you had a wish for our listeners today, Justice Colvin, what would it be?
I wish you would invest in yourself, mentally, physically, and personally, and live your greatest dreams. Why not?
And my wish for listeners would be that they consider service as an opportunity for personal growth, because I think we often think of service as helping someone else, but I think that oftentimes, and you mentioned it yourself, is that when you're serving others, you feel like the biggest benefactor.
Mhm.
And my wish would be that we learn to say yes to reaching out and helping others where we can. And we also learn to say no when there are things that are taking us away from doing the things that keep us healthier and happier.
Thanks for listening. You'll find me, Alli, on Instagram at Alli Kerr Fitness.
And you'll find me, Shawna, on Instagram at Shawna Kaminski. Feel free to pop us a DM with questions and or feedback.
If you're enjoying the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast, please subscribe and share it with other health-minded women. Ratings and reviews are also much appreciated and help us get our message out to a larger audience. Until next time, be healthy and be happy.